So here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be covering the AutoCAD Architectural Toolset, the MEP Toolset. I will cover the Plant 3D Toolset, not necessarily because it's specifically building related, but in some cases you guys may need to use the Plant 3D Toolset to do plant layouts. Not necessarily all the equipment, but you may need it for stairs, things like that. And then last, how to access your tool sets and do your installation. So with that, let's get started with the architectural tool set. So the architectural tool set features walls, windows, doors, allows you to create documents and drawings using the elements in a real world behavior in construction. There's also a part in there to do architectural renovation, which allows you to design and produce renovations more quickly, so you can have demo layers, things like that automatically created for you. You can do design and documentation with creating detail components and specific keynoting tools. All of those are features of AutoCAD architecture that are not included in basic AutoCAD. And think of this as a stepping stone to Revit. So what we're going to be doing here with the walls, windows, and doors is we use AutoCAD architecture as object modeling. So when you draw a wall, it's drawing a real wall object. It's not drawing two lines that represent a wall. Same thing when you put in if you want to insert a window, it's not going to let you insert a window unless you put it on a wall feature or something like that. So all of these things are interconnected. And like I said, this is a stepping stone to Revit because Revit has a lot of the same ideology and thought process involved. And so when you're familiar with the AutoCAD architectural tool set, moving up to Revit is a less daunting task because now you're familiar with some of the tools and how they operate. So with that, we're going to talk about walls, windows, and doors. You'll see here that in your AutoCAD architecture, you immediately have here on the Home tab the ability to put in walls, doors, windows, roof slabs, stairs, spaces, enhanced custom grids, ceiling grids, boxes, things like that. You'll also have a tool palette that's specifically for walls, doors, windows, corner windows, window and door assemblies, openings, curtain walls, etc. All of these things are built in, so it's less things that you have to try and customize or create on the fly. In addition, you also have a styles browser. So when you pick a wall, you have all of the wall styles here. So you have brick 4 and brick 4. You have brick 4 with a furring strip. You have furring. You have a standard wall, which is just a representation. You have wall with an air gap. So it's a 4-inch brick wall with a 2-inch air gap with a 4-inch brick wall, etc. So all of these things help you, especially when you get down to the details, because all of these things are pre-done. Now, with the renovation feature, this is a new feature that's specific to the AutoCAD architecture tool set. And you're going to see that you launch this from the Manage tab, you click on renovation mode, and it gives you the option to do demo, new, and you've got some options here you can do. You can assign to existing, you can select existing, you can freeze walls, you can turn around and add things to demolition plans or revision plans. Those are the things that really drive home how important this is, because most architects are doing some demo. Not everyone builds a drawing from the ground up and creates a brand new or a building from the ground up. Sometimes there is demo involved in an existing space, and this is one of the tools that can help with that that's not included in your basic AutoCAD. Now with the design documentation feature, you've got the ability to add door tags, window tags, room tags, door schedules, window schedules, room schedules. You've got all of these callouts, you've got keynoting, you've got the markup set manager, and you have all of this information immediately at your fingertips inside the ribbon. And if you click on an object, so for example, I clicked on a wall object here. Oh, somebody lost the audio. Can everybody else still hear me? So if you click on a wall object here and you go down and right mouse click, you'll see you have the ability to insert a window or a door or an opening or a door and window assembly directly into the wall without needing to go back to the Home tab. So again, this is all part of the fluid design process that we go through, especially when we're doing building design. And that's pretty much it. Those are the big features of the architectural tool set. So with the architectural tool set, it's really geared toward doing your buildings and doing architectural features and things like that. So that's what it's really designed and intended for. Sorry about that. So that's what the AutoCAD Architectural Toolset is for, AutoCAD Architecture. So as part of the architecture piece, we're going to move over to the MEP piece here. So best way to think of the MEP toolset is that this is a standalone toolset, but it is also a subset of architecture, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a minute. So the MEP toolset, for those that don't understand, MEP stands for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And with mechanical, we're talking about HVAC systems. Do they have documentation feature for wall types? I believe there's a documentation feature, or there's a place for you to specify your own information, Carrie. So with the MEP workspace, you have specific workspace environments that include individual palettes and domain-specific ribbons to optimize your workflow paths. You can improve your documentation's appearance and boost drafting productivity. Jared, excellent. We're going to cover this at the very end, but the tool sets are not pre-installed in the new AutoCAD. Basically, the best way to look at this is when you have AutoCAD including specialized tool sets, you have your AutoCAD install, and then you have separate installs that will create separate icons for each one of the products that you want to use. So your AutoCAD architecture will have a different AutoCAD icon and a different launch point than just plain AutoCAD. And can the architecture tool set be used with AutoCAD Lt? All right, the architecture tool set is inside AutoCAD Architecture. You can utilize AutoCAD architecture drawings inside AutoCAD Lt, but in AutoCAD Lt, you will not have access to the tool sets. You would need to upgrade to the full AutoCAD, including specialized tool sets. Sorry, let's get back here with the MEP tool set. So our documentation, this allows you to improve your documentation's appearance and boost drafting productivity, again, just like we did in architecture. The big thing here is AutoCAD block conversion. You can batch convert single or multiple blocks and symbols. So if you do not have a correct symbol or a block, you can convert it into an MEP block, add your connection points, and then it becomes an MEP object. And then your styles browser, you get more MEP components and can add folders and custom content to your own custom library, especially if you deal with any specialized stuff. You add that to your content library, and now you don't need to recreate it or go steal it from other drawings. Now with the MEP toolset features, so I'm going to give you just two examples here. You'll see that I have an HVAC workspace, right? So you go down to the gear wheel at the bottom, you click on that, and inside MEP, you're going to see you have HVAC, piping, electrical, plumbing, schematic, and architecture. So if you'll, believe it or not, if you actually have AutoCAD MEP installed and you flip to the architecture workspace, it will be the same as AutoCAD architecture because they are built off the same technology. And a lot of what you do in MEP goes right back to how the architecture is done. So when I'm in the HVAC, all of the stuff in my home tab and all of the stuff in my styles browser and all of my tool palettes are specific to only the HVAC or the mechanical portion of doing drawings. So I have duct fittings, adding equipment. I can specify spaces, pipes, and pipe fittings. And if I'm in my tool palettes, I have access to ducts, flexible ducts, and I can pick systems, things like that. And if I'm over in my styles browser for the tool palettes, you'll see that I have, under my object type of duct, I have a large number of predefined ducts that I can choose from. Is it a smoke duct, or is it a smoke exhaust? Is it a spiral duct exhaust? Is it a makeup air? I've got some other things in here. So that's all part of the HVAC workspace. And if I go back in and switch to the plumbing workspace, everything updates differently. So now on my home tab, you'll see that all of my information here that was previously all related around HVAC is now all related around plumbing. So plumbing lines, plumbing fittings, my tool palettes update so that I have my domestic cold water, domestic hot water, sanitary sewer, non-potable water lines here for plumbing lines. And again, I have tabs for fittings and equipment. And again, my styles browser over here will give me plumbing fittings and will actually tell me and show me what the different plumbing fittings are that I have. And again, you just come over to the styles browser, you click on what you want, you insert it in your drawing, and away you go. So if you're doing a lot of residential plumbing, this is a great tool. And it's very similar with our electrical. I didn't want to blow you guys away by showing you all the different workspaces, but electrical has a lot of the same stuff where it's going to give you electrical lines, whether they're low voltage, single phase, 3-phase, things like that. It will give you access for ceiling lights, wall switches, all of that stuff, so that you can actually go in and design your electrical components as far as lighting, outlets, things like that, and run it all back to the fuse panel or the fuse block. So thanks for answering the LT question, and I'd like to make the ugly stepchild by giving us only the bare minimum functionality. So thanks, Carol. Yes, LT, what LT stands for is lesser technology. So when we refer to AutoCAD LT, it's AutoCAD lesser technology. What it is it's the same core AutoCAD that you're used to, but what they've done is stripped out some of the advanced functions, so that it really, LT is a stepping stone to get you in the door for more advanced software like full AutoCAD, where you have full 3D, you have custom third-party applications, things like that, add-ins, all of that stuff. And it's really intended to get you in the door, get you productive, and then move you up to another product. Now with the documentation in the tool sets here, so you're going to see here that I have a drawing that shows this ductwork, and then I can actually turn around and change that to an isometric view in realistic, and I can see all of the ducting and all of the wall openings and things like that that get created as I use MEP the way it's intended. Right, so that's a big step. So now you can start seeing these things functionally, and if you only have an AutoCAD 2D drawing, you can still do a lot of this stuff. Let's see, if you have access to both MEP and architectural, is there any reason to use architectural over MEP, or are you hindering yourself with less tools? You're not hindering yourself, you're specifying specifically when you launch MEP that you'll have to change a workspace if you're doing architecture. If you're in architectural, if you open up AutoCAD architecture, you are by default in the architectural workspace, and there's no other workspaces. There's really no other reason. Like I said, if you have MEP installed, you can change to the architecture workspace, and it's exactly the same experience as having AutoCAD architecture open. Now, one of the big things here is block conversion, because we run into this all the time. We have a standard 2D drawing that has block in it that is not MEP smart. Now we can come in here, I can click on this. Now in this case, I clicked on a door, but it could be I didn't have an electrical component, or I didn't have a piping component right away. So I can click on it, I can right mouse click, and you'll see I can convert this to a device. And then when I convert this to a device, it's going to ask me for the device name. I can specify what type of connection I want it to make. Is it going to be a power connection? Is it going to be an HVAC? Things like that. It immediately said power because when I did this, I was already in the electrical workspace. So it defaulted to power. If I had been an HVAC, it would have defaulted to mechanical. And then it's going to ask me what type of connectors and what system type. So I can put all of this information in here without having to recreate the block from the ground up and just convert the existing block in place to a smart MEP object. It's one of the big things about this. And then again, you have a styles browser, so you can actually browse into all of your styles here. And you're going to see here that, like, for example, if I'm looking at an object type of plumbing line, I'm looking at my standard content libraries in all drawings, and you're going to see I have all of the different plumbing lines for drawing plumbing lines above, below, a central detergent system, compressed air. And then if I go over here to the other side to my styles browser, I can actually pick different object types. So plumbing fittings, and under that, you're going to see architectural objects, and I have documentation objects. So I have AEC dimensions, display themes, schedule tables, label curves, zones. So I can actually specify zones here. You're going to see that I have multi-purpose, like an AEC polygon or a mask block reference, and then I have all of my plumbing objects. And in my styles browser, I'll always have access to the objects that I may not have directly in the tool palettes from the workspace, but I can always get to them through the styles browser. So I don't necessarily have to switch workspaces all the time if I'm doing something complex that requires both HVAC and plumbing, or plumbing and electrical, or HVAC and electrical. So that's really all about MEP, and now we're going to talk about Plant 3D. So you may not all use Plant 3D, you may not have even thought about it. Plant 3D is kind of halfway between manufacturing and building design, depending on what purpose you're using it for. So Plant 3D toolset has a number of features, so you can collaborate using BIM 360. We're going to quickly talk about some P&ID drafting, which is process and instrumentation diagramming, industry standard symbols libraries, some data validation. Really the big thing in here is the 3D modeling. So you can do some rapid plant modeling in 3D. You've got parametric equipment templates, structural modeling, and create project-specific piping specs if you're doing piping. So when you're using MEP, that is more for the residential and commercial side. When you're using Plant 3D, it's definitely geared more toward the heavy commercial manufacturing process plant type operations where, you know, your standard commercial space like a car dealership, you're probably not going to need Plant 3D. You might need Plant 3D depending on how advanced that is. If you're talking a bank, you probably can get away with just using standard MEP and you won't need to use Plant because it's really not a plant. So, and then you've got piping documentation that's included in the Plant 3D toolset, so you can create and edit piping orthographic drawings. You can do automated production of piping isometrics. You've got some automated project-specific reporting, and then some BIM model documentation. And then with your Plant 3D workflows, you have Plant 3D by itself. You have Plant 3D plus BIM 360 design for a more collaborative type environment. If you're collaborating only internally in the office and you're dealing with multiple disciplines, you can tie Plant 3D into Revit and Navisworks and InfraWorks. So you have a full featured basically of putting the plant in place with all the plant equipment, Revit for the architectural shell. You're using Navisworks to do clash detection to make sure that you don't have pipes that are overlapping or, you know, that are violating certain rules that you have, and then InfraWorks to show it in sight, basically what the plant would look like when it's done. And then you have your Autodesk AEC collection. So if you do have an AEC collection, all of these software is included in that. So the AutoCAD including specialized tool sets is absolutely included as a component of the AEC collection. Plus you'll have access to things like Revit, Navisworks, InfraWorks, things like that. So I'll just briefly cover this since most of you probably are not doing things like process and instrumentation diagrams. You're probably more concerned with the 3D stuff. So quickly, you can collaborate in Plant 3D. You've got some in-context commands to help drafting process and instrumentation diagrams much easier. When you place components and lines in your P&ID drawings, each component contains data that links to the data manager, and then you can view data and reports, things like that. Again, this is slightly different from MEP. You can still get some reports out of MEP, but this is more specifically for, like I said, manufacturing type plant operations and processing. You have a bunch of standard symbol libraries that are industry standards, such as PIP, ISA, ISO, DIN, JIS, and those come standard with the symbol libraries and tool palettes. And then you can run data validation so you can quickly identify possible errors by scanning P&IDs for data consistency according to user definable rules, where it will go through and tell you that you've got misconnections or things like that. So collaboration in P&IDs, when you're doing collaboration, obviously that's up in the BIM 360 cloud, and you can collaborate plant drawings inside Revit and vice versa. When you're doing quick P&ID drafting, when you start a P&ID drafting inside Plant 3D, it immediately populates right here. P&ID is the workspace. I'm using ISO, so that's the standard I'm following. And you'll see that all of my pumps here are standard ISO symbology. My compressors are standard ISO, and as I draw this information, it all updates correctly. It gives me the 4-inch line. It tells me where it's coming from, what type of line, and where it's going. And it also shows the flow direction. Now with the data validation, when you run data validation here inside the plant P&ID in collaboration, it'll show you unmatched model inline fittings. So it'll show you where your fittings are not matched. In this particular drawing I opened, there's 961 errors, so that probably means I need to do a little work to fix some of that, make sure everything's interconnected properly. And then the 3D modeling, this is the piece that's probably a little more important, is that you can do rapid plant modeling in 3D. So you can quickly create 3D plant models using parametric equipment, structural steel libraries, and project-specific piping specifications using industry standard piping catalogs. So your parametric equipment templates allows you to create and edit equipment using parametric templates. Again, these are built into the toolset tools to help you create plant layouts faster. Now, if you're not dealing with the process equipment and you're only dealing with the building and the structure, then the next piece, the structural modeling, is far more important to understand, as you can lay out structures, stairs, ladders, railings using the industry standard steel sections that include the AISC, CISC, and DIN standards, and those are built into Plant 3D. And then you've also can create project-specific piping specs. So if you do have customized piping, or you are in a situation where you need to move up to plant to do the piping correctly because the pipes that are in MEP are not sufficient for the job or don't have the correct classifications, then you have a bunch of specific specifications you can create and write from industry standard components as well as customized components. So with the rapid plant 3D modeling, here's the create equipment. So I can create a vertical tank right here. You'll see I can pick whether or not it's a cylindrical, torus spheric head, torus spheric head here. So in this particular case, I have the torus spheric head at the top and the bottom. And then I have a cylinder in between, and you'll see I can pick elevations. I could actually click on one of these and actually define what I want this size to be. And again, that's just simply through creating equipment. I click the create equipment button, brings this up, it'll ask me what I want to do. I can add trim like ladders, I can add shapes around it, things like that. Now inside the structural modeling, this is the more important piece. If I go to structure tab in my Plant 3D, you'll see that I have structural members. I can put up grids, railings, stairs, plate, footings, ladders, and I have all of this information in here, so I can actually use Plant 3D to build up a plant structure to hold my process equipment and things like that. And then I can create project-specific piping specs. So this is more advanced than the MEP, where I can actually go through and specify all of my piping specs in here, and I can harvest that from the drawing, and then I can use my plant spec editor here to update and change and add custom sizes. Right, and with your piping documentation, you can create and edit piping orthographic drawings. You can extract all of the piping as an orthographic drawing directly from the 3D model and update them as the 3D model is being updated. If you guys do piping isometrics, you've got automated production of that. It's got industry standard, project standard piping isometric drawings, again, directly from the 3D model, so you only have to do it once. You don't have to redraw them over and over again. Automated project-specific reporting, so you can define report formats for the project, automatically populate the data directly from your Plant 3D model. And then BIM model documentation. You can work with other industry disciplines to create BIM models for the plant. So we come up here and we generate our piping orthographic. So I drew the box here to capture this set of piping. This is the orthographic that it creates. This shows me all the piping runs, shows me where I am in relationship to the northing and easting, and gives me this data right here. And again, this is dynamically linked. If I change anything in here, this view updates. With the piping isometrics here, I can create quick ISOs, production ISOs, things like that. I just simply click on the piping elements I want. I tell it to create an ISO, and it will actually create the piping isometric drawing like this. It includes all the parts I've selected, will actually generate a bill of materials and place it on a title block for me. And then inside the piping documentation, you have a report manager here that you can actually go through and design your reports. And when you run the reports, everything that you've specified in here will come out from that Plant 3D drawing. And the BIM model documentation runs very similarly to that. And then again, you've got your standard workflows. Your Plant 3D tool set plus BIM 360 Design allows plant designers to use the BIM 360 Design to collaborate across project teams in a cloud-based common data environment. If you're just running local, you've got Plant 3D plus Revit plus Navisworks plus InfraWorks. So you can use Plant 3D in the AEC collection for spec-driven design, analysis, and construction-ready isometrics. You can also use Navisworks for clash detection between the Revit model and the plant models. And then if you have your AEC collection, you can streamline your workflows using Plant 3D, Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Revit, and any other BIM software and tools that's included in that collection. All right, so that's about Plant. That's the 5-second tour of Plant. Now we're going to talk about how we access your tool sets and installation. So you have two options when it comes to installing AutoCAD and any of the AutoCAD specialized tool sets. You access that either through your Autodesk account portal or your Autodesk desktop app. If you use the Autodesk desktop app, you are only going to get the most current version, which is right now 2022. If your standard is not 2022, then you'll need to use your Autodesk account portal. That one's pretty easy. You just go to manage.autodesk.com, you sign in. From there, you'll be able to pick and choose what to download, whether or not download AutoCAD or any of those specialized tool sets. So you'll see I see AutoCAD including specialized tool sets here. There's usually a button over here that says View Objects. I click the button. It'll populate this that says AutoCAD including specialized tool sets. And from here, you'll see that I have AutoCAD, AutoCAD Architecture, AutoCAD Electrical. Now, locate that, click on the download button, and you can, I'd say use the download now method. This ensures you have all the, yes, Plant 3D is a separate install and a separate program from AutoCAD MEP. But what I want you guys to understand here is that your Autodesk or your AutoCAD, including specialized tool sets, all of it is built off of core AutoCAD. So AutoCAD core functionality is installed for no matter what one of these pieces you install. Now, if you plan to use AutoCAD and one of the verticals, we call these verticals, anything that's not specifically AutoCAD. So Plant 3D is a separate vertical product from MEP. If you want to use both, you need to install both. That's an excellent question, Corey. Thank you. All right. If you've got the desktop app here, you can come here, you click I agree, and then you click install. Generally speaking, I recommend against this method simply because this is prone to some failure. There's no fallback. I always tell people when they ask me, I always guide them to their Autodesk account and have them download and install their software from there. This way I know exactly what we're getting and I know we can control that. But that's up to you. One of the other things that you do get included in your tool sets is Raster Design. And I'm going to talk about that here. So generally speaking, if you plan to use plain AutoCAD in addition to any of the other tool sets you want to install that first. Install any other tool set components you wish to use. So if you want to use MEP, you'll install that after you install AutoCAD. And the last thing you will want to install is Raster Design if you plan on using it. How this works is Raster Design looks at what's currently installed and updates those installations. So for example, if I install AutoCAD, then I install Raster Design, then I install MEP. MEP will not have the Raster Design ribbon and will not have the Raster Design functionality where AutoCAD still would. So always install that one last if you plan on using it. So that's how you access your tool sets and installation. So does anybody else have any questions? Now's the time.
Okay, Ryan, I'm here. Just giving everybody time to type in their questions. I have a couple of links that you've sent me in the meantime. Just gonna go to my, so in the chat, I'm gonna post, we created a landing page for all of Ryan's webcasts and blog posts. He directs a lot of his customers that call in to this. So, and this is also where today's recording is going to be if it's taking time to get into your inbox. So there's chat and there's Control V. So hopefully you guys can see that.
Yeah. I see the first one.
Okay, and we do have an AutoCAD site on our website. Sometimes we try to make things easy to find, but sometimes it can get complicated. So I know Ryan has a slide where he shows you where to go. Here's a link. It's a live link. You can click on that, and you'll have access to all the AutoCAD things. So Ryan, go ahead.
All right, so let's roll back here. Stephen, you said we'll work with 2019 AutoCAD as well. Yes. Right now, if you go to your Autodesk account and you have AutoCAD including specialized tool sets, you'll have access to 2019 through 2022 out of your Autodesk account. If you currently have AutoCAD 2019 as your standard, you should install. If you want to use any of the tool sets, you would want to install the same version, just for clarity's sake. Dennis, the new install for the 2022 version, I actually covered that in my What's New in 2022 webinar, which you can find by clicking on that link there. I do touch at that at the very end. That webinar went a little over, so it's very close to the end of that hour. I think it's an hour and 10 minutes long. And I do touch on that new install. It is a little painful. That's the best way I can describe it. Will these tool sets work in vanilla AutoCAD? No, they won't work in vanilla AutoCAD. You will actually have to install the separate tool sets. Autodesk kind of put a misnomer on there. It's not AutoCAD including specialized tool sets. It's AutoCAD including vertical products is really what they should have said. Now let me go back here because I have someone who I'm sure is dying. Jeremy Nelson. Okay. So Jeremy, the question for the end of the presentation, you do not use the AutoCAD vertical products except Civil 3D. You mentioned that the tool set as a stepping stone to Revit. Is there any up converting workflow of these tool set objects to Revit or Revit published to DWG that would put these tool set objects in? All right, I know that the MEP stuff you can bring in as a reference into Revit. But if you guys are primarily Revit or you primarily deal with Revit, then Revit has its own set of MEP. It basically has its own set of tools depending on how you use Revit. So you have Revit architecture, you have the architecture component of Revit, which does all the architectural pieces. You have an MEP component inside Revit, which does the same as the MEP portion that I showed you here. And then there's a third component that's included in Revit called structural, where you do the structural components. And there is not a really good way. Civil 3D is not going to get you into Revit. Civil 3D is by itself, and it's primarily for civil specific tasks. So these are the building tasks specifically to get you, basically to get you off of just 2D or basic 3D AutoCAD, get you into a vertical, and then from the vertical, that's your stepping stone to get you into full solid modeling with Revit, or object-based modeling, I should say. But Civil 3D is still AutoCAD controlled, and that's where it's going to be.
Okay.
Okay.
I did post a link to the for the AutoCAD 2022 in the chat.
Okay, let's see. So Harlan, you've been trying to find the tool sets for the last two versions of AutoCAD with no luck. I've used my account, they're just never there. Harlan, you may need to confirm whether or not when you go into your account, does it say AutoCAD or does it say AutoCAD including specialized tool sets? If you are just on plain AutoCAD, you are probably going to need to see about upgrading to convert your AutoCAD to AutoCAD including specialized tool sets in order to have luck or in order to access those. You spoke of Raster Design. Are there going to be any classes on that program? Sue, I don't have anything planned for Raster Design. It's kind of the redheaded stepchild, for lack of a better term. It has not gotten a lot of love. I usually refer people back to the basics. Hang on. Let me put this in here. This is the same link. It's back from 2013, so don't be concerned, but this is the Raster Design Quick Start. As far as what I usually tell people, this is the best place to start, and I pasted that into the chat for everyone. And what is the difference between Toolset and AutoCAD and Architectural Desktop? Okay, Steve, I can answer that. So architectural desktop was, for lack of a better term, it was changed from architectural desktop to become AutoCAD architecture. The thought process and the backend programming are essentially the same, but the interface changed to fall more in streamline with the AutoCAD core functionality. That's why it's no longer called architectural desktop. It's the same with mechanical desktop. Mechanical desktop became AutoCAD mechanical with a few caveats because architectural desktop's original code was actually abandoned. So if you have drawings that came from AutoCAD or if that came from mechanical desktop, you actually can't move them forward without going through some intermediate steps through Inventor 2018, if I remember correctly. So that's a little more problematic, where the architectural objects in architectural desktop will actually convert to AutoCAD AEC objects for AutoCAD architecture. I hope that was clear as mud for you.
Nice. Okay, looks like you've answered all the questions.
It helps when I've been doing this a long time that I can actually answer those questions.
It's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan, as always. Enjoy your summer. I know that I know we'll be in talks. I mean, we work together and we talk quite often. Everybody else, thank you so much for continuing to join us, for supporting us. Enjoy your summer. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see everybody back in September. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, Ryan.
Bye.